WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. Are you sick and tired of politicians that don't listen to voters? They get into office and then forget the rest of us? Well, here's your chance to be heard. This week, you can weigh in on what Charlotte will look like in 20 years. The city's inviting you and other members of the public, all of us, to come share your opinion on the Charlotte Future 2040 comprehensive plan during the city council meeting. We'll tell you how to sign up in just a few minutes, but first, the plan itself. It's received a lot of attention in recent weeks. It really maps out the who, what, where, when, why when it comes to development in the Queen City over the next 2 decades. Aims to make Charlotte more equitable, inclusive, diverse, connected, innovative, make it a better place to live for everybody. And as Charlotte grows, the plan aims to increase housing options and decrease commute times. And as you're about to find out, support for the plan does not fall along partisan lines. Joining us now, Charlotte City Councilwoman Victoria Watlington, a Democrat representing the fine folks of District 3. Councilwoman, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So when it comes down to this plan, it's a little complicated, but unlike some of your fellow Democrats will say that, you've come out against part of it. Why?
Sure, because while the plan has a lot of great components and I think it's getting us generally in the right direction, there are some things that I really believe may do us more harm than good if we don't get thoughtful about the approach.
And specifically, I know the single family housing portion of it is getting a lot of attention. Specifically, what part of it don't you like?
Sure. So in section 2.1, it talks about creating a policy that would allow all lots that are currently zoned single family to allow up to a duplex or triplex on those lots. And that's the part that is concerning to me, because what that means for neighborhoods like mine is that investors are now incentivized in a way to take the properties that many of them already own and create duplexes. In North Carolina, you cannot purchase half of a duplex as a homeowner unless it is made into a condo. And so what that means is that rental properties then become the norm more so than single family home ownership opportunities within these communities. There's a caveat to that in that, of course, deed restrictions, HOA contracts, and covenants will supersede whatever policy we put in place. Unfortunately, many of our most vulnerable neighborhoods don't have those kinds of legislation, or I'll say contracts between the homeowners that would protect them from these kinds of things. We already see in these neighborhoods in the inner ring that investors have come in and bought up many of the lots, and we're seeing many of those older homes being torn down and larger homes being put in their place. That already has impacts on gentrification and displacement. However, it is at least creating a home ownership option. As we look at this policy, again, 2.1 in the comp plan, it creates a situation where people will be incentivized, in my opinion, to do things that don't create equity in our most vulnerable neighborhoods.
I mean, you have said, a plan that is supposed to be sort of a beacon of progressiveness is actually ending up hurting some of the people, some of the communities progressives often say they fight for.
Right. If we don't take a very, very skilled approach and thoughtful approach to how we implement these policies, then I believe that we're going to be worse off than where we were trying to be. And it's interesting.
I was supposed to say, you say could really impact neighborhoods like neighborhoods in West Charlotte, as opposed to, say, the South Parks or the Ballantines of Charlotte.
Correct, because those neighborhoods often have HOAs and deed restrictions.
Gotcha. I want to bring up something that a colleague of yours had said when it comes to this issue, Braxton Winstead. He tweeted this out a few weeks ago saying single-family zoning is a tool of segregation. If you are fighting to maintain single-family zoning, you are advocating for segregation. Stop being racist, Charlotte. Where is he wrong?
So I'll say this. There are a couple of things that I think of when I read this tweet. The first thing is that we've got to be very careful not to call anybody racist or ageist or any of these things without a full understanding about their position, right? I think that especially last night, I had an opportunity in my town hall to hear from community leaders all over District 3. And the one takeaway that I thought really resonated with listeners was that we are so different. Everybody has different needs. And if we want to maintain that diversity in this city, we've got to ensure that we right size our policies for different kinds of people who are looking for different things. And so I always hesitate to paint anything with a broad brush in that way. Secondly, we understand that tools can be used by anybody towards an intent. Councilmember Renee Johnson in a town hall earlier this week brought up a very good point. The Constitution itself was used as a tool for racism. And so while understanding the historical context of a particular tool, we also need to understand that that same tool can be used to counteract the effects of racism. Because at the end of the day, for me, racism is not about your heart. You can feel however you want to feel, but what you will not do is disenfranchise people. And so putting policies in place that could create a lack of equity or perpetuate a lack of equity in which Black and brown people have zero ownership over their neighborhoods, that puts them at more risk for displacement. That is economic slavery. And I don't think that's what anybody wants.
We can punch it back up again, but the policy that 2.1, page 103, when it comes down to the duplexes and triplexes and single family housing, get rid of that or fine tune that. Are you on board?
If we fine tune so ultimately what I'm looking for is an opportunity to create a policy that will support variety of zoning types. I believe that we absolutely can keep exclusively single family zoning designation. I think there's a place for a flexible zoning designation that is described in 2.1. The issue I have is all lots. Change all lots to all place types, and then we know that we've got an opportunity to plan a neighborhood that can incorporate both, and then I'm on board.
It's an important nuance that would really make a difference regardless of how you come down on the vote. All right, Councilwoman, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And we want to remind the folks at home, you can speak up by going to charlottennc.gov/city clerk or calling the city clerk's office, 704-336-2248. I can go have your voice be heard. Deadline 9 a.m. Monday. Speaker's going to have 2 minutes to speak at the city council meeting. Let them know how you feel. By the way, if you want to see the whole plan, read it all in its entirety, you can go to cltfuture2040.com. Some light reading over the weekend. Again, our thanks to the councilwoman. More Flashpoint, another side of this issue coming up after the break.